everyone. Happy to meet you on our rendering lesson. So we have probably supposed to pass off all the materials up to now. So we're primarily going to be working with some rendering settings. I'm going to work with some illumination, making it dependent on the different weather condition, and we're also going to try to add in some moods. So let's try at first making an interior. So everyone has their own methods, but a common mistake is that it is done this way here. So you here, you just make a kind of a sketch, like a plan, 10 boxes by a plan, and then and here, and you got this kind of box. You get this kind of interior, but it's very hard to work in, because when you have to use the materials and you need to say mapping on all of the surfaces, this is going to be horribly hard, and you'll have to redo everything. So delete out this. So how do you make an interior? So let's just, it's here, 3.5 by 5. Make it a 3-meter ceiling. So you could make a cube or a prism out of it. Or you could make a spline. So you have some kind of interior walls. So you have a kind of an entrance here. So this might be not very straight. Let's just make it a bit better. So how do you make a spline interior through a spline? Let's get out. Let's get rid of the net. So 3 meters here. Just convert it to polygons, and you get the size along the walls. You know where the ceiling is, you know where everything is, and you can just delete the ceiling here this way, or you can keep them. You can just detach them. You can just get rid of them here and continue working on. So say it's not exactly straight, just you have in edit poly have your align functions in case you might need them. So you also have it written which axis is given. It is written there. So after you've aligned it, you can just click the right button and right click and selected move and the right button, and you get the window that tells you where the edges are located. So where this one here, where the coordinate system is. This is the coordinate written over here. So Z here is 1.5 meters. That's the height of the height of the door. So let's make it a bit taller here with 210. Let's make the window over here. Gotta make a connect. Okay, make it connect along two values, 850 and 540 here. So you got this done. And let's get some extrude making. Okay, let's push it out a bit. And just click OK. So if you don't have any further place to go, so say you just take this one here. You just delete this one here because you don't really need it, the one that's left after that we had left. So it's going to, so you don't want that additional stuff because that's unnecessary, because they're going to create, it can create extra artifacts. So you have this window pane here, make it a bit of detach, or you can make the normals at first, change them. So you can, so now because they're in the opposite, you just want them going inside. Let's make it normal. So now you can check them. Edit poly. So now you've got the normals looking. We got them converted into polygons, and now you can detach them. So when you get the window, this surface can be a light portal. So if you're using this method, you can use this to make portals. So or another way is making V-ray light and just binding here, like this one here. So you just bind it along the top parts. So you get this window, the tab that allows you to choose along which you bind. So you can just perpendicular here, your vertices. It just defines along which along what the system the coordinate system works. Okay. So you got 2, 2.5, 3. That's just how much you're binding. It just defines along which plot it works. There's 3. So how much surfaces it works with. So usually you use 2.5. And this is how you use it. So you got mirror as here. You can just choose it over there. The S, S turns off the bindings, and you can just align it this way, and you get it a very correct imaging according to the geometry you have set. So we probably won't be making door. Let's add a bit of vertex here, and let's make another window. So let's just move it a bit. Move it closer to the edge. And use some symmetry on it. Okay, just pull it in. Kind of like this. Make it a bit closer. Let's convert it to polygons. And you can select backspace, delete the edges, and don't forget to delete the vertices, the points left after this operation. So the door is alright, it doesn't seem to be extra. So okay, target weld here. Just kind of cut off this here. Okay, just connect it. I just want to get rid of the collapse for all of the vertices. So we can delete all of them here. And then In Edit Edges through Bridge, you can get this done. So you get this kind of scene here. You can make the floor here. You can. The realistic is a bit of a bummer here, so I'll just turn that off. Okay, so I've done the floor. Run script. So you got the floor generator script here. So depending on how it's going to spread here, your floor, you just make your create and always just look at how it's going to be working. So as you see, 1000 centimeters here. Okay, so just change it this. Or just let's look at what values we have in the unit setup. It seems to be all okay here. Okay, so these are the ones we have here. So let's just look. Since it's centimeters, let's just change it here. So this is the kind of desk, kind of board. So here's the floor generator here, and we're gonna be able to set the values here. So we'll set this to the minimum. So we don't want them to cross over because it's going to give us a bad result. Just change this here. And I'll also suggest just suggesting here. Okay. And since this kind of floor isn't usually lined this way, it's usually turned around. So we don't want it to be parallel to the windows. So let's just switch it. And you can get this row offset now playing. So this seems fine to me. So the rest of the parameters seem to satisfy us. This is the pull we are getting here. So let's look at how to get the kind of this thing here. We'll just get the plinth. So let's just make some approximations here. Just click it along the floor. So where you have the door, you use the spots of the door. So let's just demonstrate this here. So you have the line here. So let's just select it here, switch transfer. So say the door is 900 millimeters. We'll make the transfer for 450. Let's okay this. So say we have this interior here and the plinth profile. So let's get this over here. We'll just change and make it a bit closer. So we don't need this here. Here. So I did this with the profile. So this is what we have here. So you get the kind of model here. So the model often depends on where the vertices are set. So as you see, I just chose make first here. Took both of them here. And as you see, you get this kind of effect over there. So we just chose one vertex and made vertex and got this effect. It could have been all done by hand, but that wouldn't be very easy. So definitely more time consuming. So now we can take it to edit poly. Okay, but you do edit poly if that's the main variant. So okay, so let's do cap here if you need it. Cap is just for closing it. And you can do this plinth here this way. You can also do the ceiling plinth. So what we'll do is just make it to the higher side. Okay, put it over there. Make it a bit upper. So let's get the ceiling done. Let's detach it. Let's go with ALTX. So object properties here. See through. Just get this here. Let's make a bit of a shell here. Okay, 50, 20. 0 here. Okay, we're right here. So since this is acceptable, let's set the camera over here. So let's just set it to the angle we want it to be in. So let's just look at this. So we've cut the angle. So if we're not having enough space in the interior, we can easily cut this here. So just keep in mind this. You should kind of do this option here if you have small interiors. I don't want the door to be inside, so I'll just put this here and change this parameter. So let's make this a bit higher. Just move it along. Okay, just put it here. Since nothing scary about the ceiling being this way, you can just keep it this way. You can just also move it in the same manner. So you can just cut it with the slice modifier here. don't want to have extra geometry, so we can just set the values. So I'll just select it here. So we can remove bottom or remove top. Get this done. Okay. So we can just use some aligning here, but it doesn't seem to quite matter. So let's try looking at it. So let's see, get some shading here. Let's move the camera over here. So let's make the angle a bit more square. We don't want anything to fall out. So we don't want the ALTM. So the models here that I use for myself, you can always model it yourself, but it's going to take quite some time. So let's keep this window over here. So because the stack isn't converted and there's a whole bunch of stuff going on, so by this, you get the stack copy here. Since you're gonna need to make a lighter here, you'll need to put this over here. So we've done the window this way. But since we have two windows here and two windows there for the windows, but in the visualization, when we have, say, we have curtains, we won't even need these here. But if you really want to have the glass, even though it can create difficulties during visualization, so let's just let's get some gamma going. Let's make the glass. So this is the material we have here. So this seems to be okay. This is the way we'll do this. We don't need any IORs. Let's set this to 25 so we just get a bit of reflection here. So we've got our scene going. And this seems to be it. So let's just send a bit of materials. I'd suggest making bright material so far. So it's just making this kind of point here. So I'll just make it this kind of tone. Let's make it a wall. So let's make it some plinth here. I don't want it to be overly bright, some kind of gray plinth. Let's get some multi-textures going. So let's get some wood. Choose some floor. Okay, so this. So let's choose one here. Make it a bit more glance. Reflect. Follow here. So we don't want to be completely black. So let's just select the Fresnel here. And let's get some color going here. So let's get some V-Ray side. Some rendering environments. Instance, so we get some instance here. So this. So it's okay. Light cache. Let's do some irradiance map because it's quicker. Because it's quicker than brute force. Okay. Set pixel here. And just set this one here. So we can get the irradiance map. We can get the subdivs there. We'll make about 40 subdivs. We'll take on samplers in the multipass. We'll have one here. So we'll get us a bit of white balance here. So let's get this here. We just want to keep the same kind of color. So if we want to change it, the color, we'll change it later on. So this is the bad thing about irradiance map. We're getting this kind of dots and kind of points. So let's see the frame buffer here and make a duplicate. Okay, so let's make the portals here. It's a bit too light to my taste because of the gamma. Because of the gamma is a bit different. Okay, cap. Make it detach. Okay, here. Hide and select. Array lights here. Mesh. Pick mesh, select mesh, make a skylight portal. This seems to be about it. I've done everything, the portals here. So let's take the glasses here, because we don't have them there because we've done a detach on one. So let's make an instance, but they're still different objects. So these object settings here are independent. So let's do as we did for later on. Okay, GI material, maps, opacity here, and V-Ray color. Make it black here. Let's make a group of glasses here. Let's do some hide all. Take the lights. So this is kind of a sketch of the scene. So let's select glass to make a portal glass. We don't want the portals having any effect. So let's the first portal was 25 seconds. Let's see how long this takes and see what effects it has on the picture and on the quality of the picture. So we're getting a bit more noise now in the portal scene, but I'm getting this effect here. I'm getting the some more sky in here. So when you're using portals, you get more noise, but it's also more lively, and it has generally a much brighter color, and you don't get the global illumination kind of mess ups. So let's get, okay, a bit, I like the right picture a lot more. So let's do some camera selections here. Just check out how the parameters affect our scene. So let's change the diagram. So first of all, we're going to change the diaphragm. So we're getting in a very bright kind of map here. It this parameter here strongly influences our illumination. So we got our picture rendering. We're getting a very high blick, overly high blick from the sun, but the whole scene did get brighter. So let's leave it to the way it is. So we also have a shutter speed here, parameter. which depends on the diaphragm and how photosensitive it is. Okay. So just set this here and look at the parameters. So let's look at the parameters. So how bright it is. So okay. So let's make it to 380 here. And when it's when you got a very high ISO, you have a bit more noise usually. That's how photo cameras generally work. However, the picture is a little bit darker. It's especially noticeable there was. So, but when you're gonna have some practice on your own, you will have a personal preference. So you can use a standard camera, but it just doesn't have that much settings. So when you're working with a normal camera, and if you want to set the lights only due to these parameters here, the sun multipliers, or just some additional, or you have some additional illuminators, you can use the standard camera if you need to. So you'll just put it here to 100. So let's put it to 2. And just lower this to okay. So lower it here. Let's just put it there. I've changed it a bit too much. So we're getting an adequate noise result here. And room lighting seems all right too. So this is this will do as the standard light you generally use in this kind of interior theme. Sometimes you have, say, you have the window over there on the wall, and it's going to be different. But in this particular case, this seems all right. I'd like to notice that our ceiling is a bit yellowish. So let's get give it this material here, and give us a slot GI over there, and make it a bit brighter, and make it the floor a bit globally. Get this to slot here. So usually when you're doing the floor, you don't choose the global illumination in the objects that are part of the interior. Don't really change them. So you can change the parameters one by one, just by little. You're just doing some when you're making the whole picture brighter. This is when you're changing the illumination of objects, but that will worsen the effect of the shadow, especially if you have some complex material. So say say you're doing some just change some parameters on this picture here, and you'll do this kind of scene here. Just go to it. So just take a look how it kind of looks. Just wait a bit. So let's just look how it affects the time. And that affects the quality. So when you have a higher resolution, you can see a bit more details. And just let's look at this part here. So let's stop at this part. So I'll just take this part here, and I'll just get the summed area blur. I just don't want to render whole thing. And let's render it once again. So as you see, it did get a bit more deliberate. It's no longer that kind of soapy. So let's look at the time it spent. So it's 27 seconds. It's quite nice. Let's make a copy. Let's make a crop and look at the part we want to look at. So let's put it right here. It's rendering. And so we have two different, we have the crop regime and we have the region regime that are a bit different. We just don't want to render the whole thing. It can be used when you just set the camera and you just want to look at one particular part and you just render it. So let's look at this part here. So you got 28 seconds. Let's put it, okay, let's wait a bit. Let's look at the filtration and will it affect the render? So let's go with Mitchell. And render a part. And check out the difference in the quality. Okay. So we got a bit different here. So we got this edge here a bit sharper. So it's 33 seconds here. 28 seconds here. And the other is 32 seconds. So it has a difference of 5 seconds between these renders. So we have a 20% increase in the sum. So it's quite a sum actually. So let's look at the V-Racing filter. Okay, just look at the quality. I wouldn't say that we have a drastic increase in quality. So I wouldn't see. say that I have say much of a difference, but so this thing here is not that deliberate, but it does look a bit better here. It's 30 seconds. So if you use filter, you always have additional time. Okay, so let's turn this one on. This filter here. So this, as you see here, you're getting a bit more bright on the color. So you just with the sharpener here. After using sharpener in Photoshop, you get this enhanced brightness on the colors. So as you see, it's all, well, it has got sharper, a lot nicer. So after we use sharpener, I don't believe we actually need any image filters. So let's look at the renders. So it's just depending on the type of anti-aliasing. So let's look at the fix and what kind of result it gives us. So we have 18 seconds here, and the result isn't actually noisier, but kind of a bit less deliberate. Let's go to the fixed. So let's put on 2 here. So fixed. So let's just check out how it fixed in by time. It's a good filter, but it's quite long. So let's just render this. So I wouldn't say the anti-aliasing is better here than there. We're still getting these harmonicas. So let's see, check out on the, for this value set to 3. So let's see how it is affected by, it has a effect, will affect the quality and what kind of time effect does it have. So we get a bit of a quality enhancement, but the time does change significantly. So now it's 40. So just put it here, and it's going to have a drastic increase on how long the picture is. So I don't see much of an enhancement here, but this one is a bit kind of a more smooth, and it has a bit less noise. So here we just use anti-aliasing, and as you see the effects, you can witness the effect on these harmonicas over there. So the subdips do affect the reflections too. So we can see the different variations. So this filter over there was probably one of the longest possible because it's minute 14. And that's a very long time for this simple of a scene. So let's look at the next filter, the adaptive filter. We've already looked at the adaptive. So let's just look at this one here. So let's look at this adaptive filter, how it works here. That filter we got here. So we don't have too much noise. So 27 here. 6. So we got a bit less noise here. So fixed. A bit less noise here. But there's still a bit more we still have noise, and the reflex, the noise in the reflex is gone, however. But the noise so as you see here, we've got less noise on the reflex, and it does take a bit more time, 36 seconds. So 100. So 100, some say, is a universal, always going kind of setting. We'll just try it. So they said it would be fast and would be nice. So let's just look at this. It seems to be a nice picture, and it's not very long. It seems to be going fast, and the reflex are nice. So if you have time, you can just play around with these settings here, and the time of render does increase twice, so you can get a very significant increase in the time of render. So the time just basically doubles in bigger scenes, which is a very significant difference. So adaptive subdivision here. It's rarely used by me. So it's definitely very nice. It's certainly quite cool. It's a very fast one. Okay. 30 seconds. The adaptive one does get a better picture, but it does work at the same speed. So subdivs here, you can have the same parameters pretty much set. Time to render. So it's going to render step by step within the time of a minute. So as you see, the pixels are getting rendered one by one on our eyes, and the noise is going disappearing. So we've got it counting now. And just to get this kind of result here, 30 seconds seem to be alright. 30 seconds here. But together with both of the noises, you start lacking noise in the light. So in 30 seconds, you got a picture that is in some places worse, but in some much better. So it does look nice, and we'll get it some testing done on heavier scenes. So as you see, we don't have all that much noise in the light, and so this filter affects not only the reflection but the light illumination too. So let's look at the adaptives. So let's do some linear multipliers. Okay, let's go to 12. So it's going to be a lot more brighter. So Reinhard with the value of 1 does look quite nice. So it does look a bit more contrast. It does look definitely nicer. But we can do this in the Afterwork Photoshop, of course. So let's try out the exponential. Because, well, why is it Reinhard by default? Because all the values we used, say the type, the liner type of the map, are made by Reinhard. So the burn value is in Reinhard too, and they are responsible for the how much contrast we are getting here. So okay, 0 to here. You could get this there. So let's have a further look. So what we are looking at are, so we do understand how it works. So now global DMC is responsible for the noise. So we have these parameters here, adaptive amount. Let's check out what it does. So let's see how much more time it will take to render. So affects the noise. Let's check out the noise. So it seems that we have the same amount of noise here. Let's just look at the reflections. So I see a bit of reflection going on here. Not all that much. And we didn't have a major increase in the time, so let's check this parameter here. Set it to 0.5. Check out how it works. So with the adaptive amount, so as you see, you are getting a bit less noise on things like the window pane. But it's pretty much the same. So it's still a pretty noisy render with a bigger amount of time spent. So let's increase this here to 16. So global DMC is the main parameter, are the main parameters that are relevant for the noise. Let's check out how it works with the noise. So as you see, we are getting even less noise right now. So the number of sample is also defines the noise in the picture. So let's just check out how much time it takes. So usually in heavy scenes, so if the time is, say, of the render, is about an hour, the increase of the render in time would be about 30%. So it's quite some time. So the minimum, let's try this, the minimum amount of samples. So let's try manipulating the global subdivs here. Let's increase all of the subdivs that we have. They influence pretty much all of the parameters. So in the ER map here, so just check out how it's done. So as you see, the number of sample doesn't really influence the time. So we shouldn't be forgetting the portals, the noise done by the portals. So the subdivs on the lights will also increase the quality of our pictures. So don't try fixing your problem with just editing the DMC. You should edit by every possible parameter by small amounts. So let's get. So we've already had a time increase, but let's do some more parameter work. So let's go here, set this to 20, or well 50, and render it once again. So we're going to look at the amount of subdivs during our test. So get a 40 here. So so you should try experimenting, and you'll get the hang of this with time. And just have a look now. So as you see, it's taking even longer now because the amount of subdivs on the light is starting to affect the DMC, and there's barely any noise left. But it's just very, very long. It's about a minute now. So you should go overboard with these subdivs there. So say at first you do the subdivs on the illuminators, and then you start doing the subdivs. You should start doing the subdivs in the DMC. So you set it to 30, and then you try to do some more editing and some more settings if it doesn't satisfy you. So the subdivs of the material are dependent too. This are valuable because you're getting some light on them from the window. But in the light, you're not really getting any noises. So it's all it all has much in common. So So as you see, we had some more noise, but the render was just taking so long that I canceled it. So let's try 20 here and 2 over there. And let's just go here and go to the material and go 24 for the material itself. And now go with render. And just look at the whole reflection. So let's just see what we're getting now. So let's look at what we get. We need to get a smooth reflection without any kind of noise, without any kind of additional problems. Okay, let's try getting getting some smooths. So it's all very smooth and very nice. So here, by constantly testing, you can check what effects the parameters give you. Just so you have to be careful not to overwork. So 0.1 over on the DMC is a very high value for the noise, and you might be able to get this kind of result with 0.03. So don't forget that I had these global subdivs turned on, and I also worked with the global subdivs in delimation. That shouldn't be forgotten. So I've had all subdivs affected by this. So that's you always have to compromise between all these settings where you put the subdivs. So don't forget about these settings over here, because they are very relevant to how much time it's going to take for you to render. So the number of bumps, number of pixels on which are illuminated. You need don't forget that absolutely every ray of light is going to be worked upon. So you always have to compromise between the quality and the number of time. So you have 20, 25. That's so as you see, 3 minutes. It's has been the time spent has been severely increased. So if you use these parameters here, the rendering would take 6 hours instead of, say, 1 hour for some abstract picture. Progressive is also a setting. You can get your noise result there. Set your noise threshold. And say here you can, in the preview, you can say also put render timing. So here you just put it any picture, what you get in 5 minutes, in 1 minute in this parameter that's what you're going to get, how much time it has to do. So say you put it to 100. You can just put this here. So basically it's from 1 to 100 in the number of minutes set in the render time. So let's try changing the secondary and primary lighting. So here we have the readings. Let's go to brute force. Let's get the multiplier going. Let's just see to what extent the primary and secondary light engine works. So I'll just put them to 1-1. Let's just see, is it going to be darker or lighter? So just how much reflections and bumps we're going to have. So here's what we see on the primary light, and let's check the depth here. So you get a bit more light. So let's turn on the light cache here and check what we get. So the brute force has a high quality illumination. I'd say not actually the illumination. It's gives a lot better shadows with less artifacts. We have the very frame buffer here. Just look at this part over here. When we used irradiance map, we didn't have the feel that it's completely attached to the wall. And here's it's all right. You can see that it is attached to the wall. It's that it's supposed to be attached to, and we don't have much problems with that. So if we don't have any problems with this, it's absolutely great. So sometimes we don't even have to pay attention to these defects, minor defects we have here, because, well, generally because they are covered by some sort of curtains. So here we don't really see this. So we don't have on the right, we don't have the feel that it's attached to the wall, and it looks kind of bad in comparison. So it does look a bit better. Let's get to the global DMC here. Let's make him a bit lesser. Okay, one here. You can use brute force, of course. Of course, you can change them a bit. Say when you're making different maps, you get 2 windows. But when you use just one brute force, you just get 2 different parameters here. So when you're getting the increasement of parameters here, so as you see, the render is increasing. But this is if you have a really big amount of time to render. So let's just check out what we're doing. So just look at different particles here, different parts, different small parts. But I personally find that brute force and light cache are the best combination. Is the best combination. So V-radiance and light cache is also alright. So let's just check out the primary and secondary settings. As now we've changed them, we are getting a huge amount of noise, and we are getting a very long render. So if we change the number of subdivs, it's going to be a huge amount of subdivs. It's going to be a huge amount of time. So we can get some irradiance map and light cache. This is much faster, but so we're getting some defects here if we do this on the white spots. So brute force, and brute force is a very complex one, so Since let's leave irradiance map here. Let's add the lookup sample. So let's leave medium here, just 40 to the subdivs. And let's add the first. Let's add the first type of interpolation. So it seems to be quite fast. So let's look at the value that's judged by the value and the render time, the quality. So we'll be just looking at some. So let's add this. Open the second picture. So just suggest shows they seem to be about the same in quality. So these types of interpolation. But the time difference seems to be a bit more, so we've changed these settings there. Okay, you got your standards here. Standard settings there. Since they are kind of changed, the render time is slightly different. So just to analyze the types of interpolation, it's very important to look at how they work with the shadows and how it works with the kind of cloth. At least as you see here, it's not very strict. And just there we saw that there's a kind of dots where I'm just pointing my mouse. So let's get to the V-Ray global illumination. And just check this here. So here I see them to a lesser extent. So let's look at the next type of interpolation. So this result is 113. Okay, let's get here. Let's render this one. Interpolation here. And let's get to the sample lookup here. The sample types. Just to see how everything goes. So the global illumination problems are still the same. They aren't going anywhere. We're not seeing any differences here. So as you see, it's a bit softer here on the mold. And the mold is a bit smoother. So let's just look at the sample lookup here. So we don't really see much of a difference while changing the values. So let's just try doing this here. This is with the quad balance. So the good promises us a better quality. So let's just look at what we are getting. And we're still having the set of problems with the edge there. So let's just look at here. So what can we do? So as you see, it did to get the faster render. However, you can witness that. So let's wait a bit more. So let's just cancel that here. So our first picture was around 113, and this is 1.6, so it's a bit faster. Let's try the nearest draft. It gives us, as you see. So and we're still having some problems. So some more So we have these kind of blurs, very deliberate blurs, easily visible, nothing nice on them. So I don't even want to look at this. Looks horrible. But it is a bit faster. So, and let's look at overlapping quality. It promises a good quality and a good speed. But we're still getting the same problems here. But the quality is still a bit better. So it's not much faster. So let's just look at the time render here. And then we're gonna look at, gonna make our decision on how fast it is. So the light cache here might be giving us a bit of a unstrictness in the picture, this kind of clothy effect. But since we're testing a radiance map, we are looking at the radiance map. So it takes a bit more time, and it still gives us a bit of quality times, a bit more quality. So let's just continue looking further. So the problem of this pane here is still left. So we still have this feel that it's levitating in the air. So it might not look too well. But the best option, as you see, was the overlapping option. But it gives us the best speed. So the light cache gives us certainly a huge amount of parameters. So we have a bunch of subdivs here. So subdivs, you can count them, how much you need. The root, say it's the root of the diagonals. So here, so say 100 of 100, and you take the square root of 100 by 100, you get 1,000. That would be why we have 1,000 set here. That's how much you need to get every sample on the picture to be filled up. But I personally believe that that's not all that necessary. You can just put, so say you put 2,000 sample size 0.1 and just look at where it gets us. So the mixture of radiance map. So our light cache will help us get rid of all this stuff here. So the brute force here, as you see, the brute force, you got some over reflections, and you get this gradient. I got this gradient here when you use brute force. So it gave us the effect that, the seeming effect that it's a normal kind of thing without anything levitating. It was kind of had the effect of being glued to the ceiling, looking very normal. So let's look at how this looks with the light cache here. So we've increased the subdivs, but we probably won't see much of an effect. So you're getting the picture here. Yeah, so So you should make this number of subjects a bit more. Let's just get some filtration going on here. Let's see if we have any card or big changes. So I'm getting some light sample countings here. Okay. So the picture is getting a bit cleaner, but we're still having the same problem, and it doesn't seem to be of much help. So the global illumination here is still not very even. So let's continue looking further. So let's go with fixed. So sometimes fixed allows us to prevent some mistakes. We'll go with the fixed. It's hard to, on these kind of little spots, it's hard to see if we got a big effect or not, but let's just look at along the filter here. So, radiance map. Doesn't seem so. We're getting a bit of spots on the panes here. And the fixed does help us prevent these kind of spots. So the fixed, to some extent. Okay. So it's just when you render the picture, you can just see which kind of method you find more convenient. But here I'll be using the type. So here you get the type of counting. So you can get the sequence. You can choose the sequence by which it counts. So say you want to use your memory equally. You can use dynamic. So you can. This allows us to. If you have an overly big scene, you should just keep it to being dynamic. Because it kind of spreads out your memory, makes it all even. Because the picture will take a bit more time. Jeez. So these ones here are known to you. It takes they are, and you have these settings here, the stamps and all. Sure, I'm responsible for render. They are distributional settings, as to me. And these here. So let's get to the elements, just how they look, and just see which render parameters influence the noise. So let's start from the morning. So we could make a daylight system and set its parameters. Say you put it and you get this kind of here, so you get this kind of system. So you could put the sky, sun, V-ray sun. So you say, so it asks if you want a V-ray sun or not. Go off now, and it gets us a V-ray sun. And you could use no skylight here. Let's just turn it off and just switch it around a bit. It gives us the positions according to what the climate conditions. So we can make them manual to make them undependent on weather conditions. So let's try getting it this way. So we could choose our parameters over there. So I wanted to get it into the window, so I'll set it by 9 o'clock. A bit less here, 6 o'clock. 6 a.m. in the morning we have here. And 1 month. Okay. So, getting 0, 0 here. So, we put it in a way that there's no light to have rays directly into the interior. And let's use manual just to shift the sun into place. So it does work like an ordinary system though. So in this way, you can get the sun into a position to get to the ray of light you want and create a light form. Okay. So as we aren't getting anything drastically different. So another thing that matters is the color of the sun. Say it's more bright on the early morning hours, and it gets kind of a red kind of color closer to the evening. So let's try making it a red sun. I can get us a kind of a feel effect. So let's just render, just check if V-Ray Sky is still connected, and it is connected. So seems to be about it. Okay, let's just start rendering it. So the sun seems to, the lower it is, the yellower it is. So here we see on the preview this picture here. Let's just start looking at it from the progressive view. We'll be able to see we'll be able to see it in as a real preview, but a noisy one. So it's a highly uplighted scene, which prevents us from giving it a morning effect, and the sky color is also a bit off for an early morning effect. So let's go to physical camera and make this 228. And here, okay, we'll put 50 here. I made him a bit darker in the scene, but didn't really change anything of the illumination, so I only used the map. So now we've got this nice color of sky that is similar to a morning sun. So and I'll just turn this turbidity here in the sun parameters. Just put it to 8. So it's a bit brighter, but we just want it to be a bit more powerful too. So now to go to a new window, we just choose V-Ray Sun, click OK, and make it the intensity to 1. So we choose this yellowish kind of effect. Let's use a bit less light cache to speed it up a bit. So, okay, so we got a render here. So let's just wait a bit. So, as you see, you get this kind of yellowish. So it's too much, and let's change the regime back. So we're going to be testing the lights. I'd prefer to have a normal value, so I'll get this here. I'll make it a bit more lightweight. So we can make the sun a bit brighter because it's it's a morning sun. We just want to have it very bright, kind of upwaking. And I don't want to have any non-deliberate shadows, so I want the morning sun to make them stricter, like there are than here, and in the evening we'll get more watery shadows. So let's choose one here. Change the parameters, and I'll get a bit less turbidity now. So let's check what we're gonna get here. So this is what we are getting. So we've got the sun into a position, and we got a picture from the position, but after that we can do a bit more editing in the parameters, which will get us a better feel to the picture. So when the sky changes the position, we're going to get different light effects. So let's make it a bit higher. Just drag it here. We don't care about the shadows. I want to demonstrate how the illumination works. So as you see, though it's dependent on the turbidity, it did get brighter, but the whole interior looks a whole lot colder because the sky color is too getting colder. So in the day it's more in the day it's a bit kind of bluish. So you can make it this way. And don't forget that if you make it this way, you'll get much stricter shadows. So you don't really get watery kind of shadows during the day because when they're overly strict, they won't look too nice. to keep that in mind. So we're getting this kind of a lighted material. As you see, it looks rather different. So in this interior, this color is just not enough. You can't leave it this way. So you need a bit of artificial light too to make this look acceptable. So let's set this here. You can use an ordinary photometric, but you can use, I'm going to use the V-Ray one, because I believe the V-Ray ones I found to be faster. So IS files can be found on manufacturer of light illumination systems. They are often provided by manufacturers, or you can just Google them on the internet. So we wanted to, so we get the lights. We want to have a bit of watery effect, so we got the power here. And I want it to be a bit stronger. Get it up to 50. So this parameter here is a bit dependent. So let's just put it all in the center of the room. So it's also dependent on the position. It's not always the same, the power of the lighter. So when you make your interior, try setting your camera once and then work with the illumination. So you got your camera set, and after you set your camera to a setting you like, try focusing more on the picture generated by the illumination settings. So when you get a certain field you like, you always you try writing them down or remembering, and getting your favorite kind of combination that works for you. So as you see now that we have this, it's a bit too bright. Get this kind of picture. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at the interior. So since they are rather white lighters, they get a bit too bright. So in order to compensate their brightness, let's make the sun a bit darker, because we're getting a kind of a flattening effect on the picture. So let's make it 205. But it's better not to change them, but sometimes we have to. So now, as you see, we have a conflict of the sky, kind of a sky conflict here. So now we get the camera. Okay, select camera. Get to 4. And 70 here. So just set the parameter this way. So in an empty room, these shadows don't look all that well. So they work better with when there's only a skylight. So here you have an artificial additional light. And later on it will be replaced by an object generating light, like a lamp. But when you have not a very high sky, not a very bright sky, and you have inner settings, inner lighters inside, you need to have a dominant light and the other light has to be secondary. So, and then play around with the minor parameters. So when the sky light, after finding the dominant effect and finding the dominant light, so after getting the dominant light, you get the secondary lights inside of the room, and then regulate their parameters. Just basically, you can just make them warm your interior. Say the sky kind of can get it very bright. All of it will be visible, but you'll need some kind of warm feeling light inside. So here it doesn't look very well. Let's just turn the sun, put the sun on the side where we have no lights. All here. Okay. Okay, it's not giving us a very correct imaging. So we have the bright light no more, and it got a whole lot a warmer feel. So if we're getting some overly dayish kind of a cold lamp, we might just switch the lamp and it won't have this cold effect. Just switch the sun. So, say it's you have your house surrounded, say, by trees, and it's 5 p.m. the evening. You just have to still turn a bit of light at home, and it gives you this warm effect, and this is what we want to achieve. So, now that we've placed the sun in a different area, we no longer have this cold effect here, and it's a very warm kind of color. And the shadows, as you see, are also different. You have different blicks, and it looks completely different, and you have it's all very, very nice. And you can even make this even allows us to make these lights inside a bit brighter, a bit stronger, a bit more maybe yellow, more colorful. That will give you the feel of a nice homeish kind of atmosphere. It's a big improvement to our picture. Looks very realistic now. So this seems what are we using here? Let's see. We're getting some sky, but it's on the back of our little house. There's some portals and some ES. So let's look at the V-Ray frame buffer and render a small part of it. So we'll turn on the sun. Let's choose a camera and render it. So when the sun is off, we should get a bit more blue in the screen. But as you see, we are getting a bluish reflection here. So I guess we can judge. So getting a bit more subs here. Put over a bit more subs. So just to get this stuff. So just render this little part here. So that when the sun's off, so some interiors here. Just Let's make a copy here. So let's make our interior a bit darker. So it's a bit dark here. In some places, a bit more defined. It's almost the same. So you can get a bit more, or you can just get some shadows here. So we got the day here. So let's try some. Let's make the sun here and get some evening effect. So let's put it right into the window and change its position a bit. So we got it changed a bit. Turned. So let's make it a bit different here. Make a scene here. So I don't want these ESs here. I just want only the evening light. So I want it to fall on the floor. Let's have the realistic regime on. So we can move the shadows a bit. Just move it a bit here. So let's make it a bit less ozone here. I don't want it to be an overly filled, I just want it to be an evening sky. So with this kind of camera you can achieve any kind of daylight, or even time of the daylight, but it should be corrected by inner light. It can be that is corrected. So let's just try looking at this here. Let's see how we can. So now we're gonna see how we can play with the blicks with the interior lights that we have. So here we can get some artificial lights done, since we have some blicks. Well, when we get some furniture, they might not be this visible. So you can still be outlining them with the ESs. So you can just either make the ES a bit smaller or just regulate them. So when you change the position in the sky, you can see that the floor is a bit different. So the more blue it is, the more evening it is, and when the brighter it is, the more more dayish it is. So let's get this here. So when you get this black here, you get the dominant effects here. So the ES light kind of counters our shadow, so you get the effect that the sun count outlines our geometry. And this might be nice to get some additional volume as I put it on this picture. This interior here. So as you see, the ES kind of gets us got rid of the black. So now we can let's look at this. So we'll just put in some additional furniture. So what are we going to put in? So let's put in a couch. So let's put in some furniture. Let's what else can we put here? So let's put in a small kind of couch. So I just want to fill in the interior to check out how this actually is going to look when it's filled up. So I want to put in this couch. I want to put it along the window. So the floor here, put along. So as you see, it's on the place where it's being hit directly with the light. So we can just look how that all works. So as you see, you're getting a small blick on the couch. It doesn't give us much of a problem on our geometry. And it actually outlines the geometry. It outlines all of these folds you have. So you can just put it on this tab here. You can feel the size. But the light on top of the couch, it doesn't have a bad effect. It also outlines the geometry of the pillows from the very top. So you can just actually it might be even overlined, so we'll make the sun a bit darker. Can get it. Let's put it to 80. That's our illumination in the side of the interior. Again, a bit stronger and a bit more yellow. So let's just look at this place. So as you see, you get a conflict of shadows. It's a bad effect. You have the ES light conflicting and with the skylight, so it's not very nice. When you have a lot of furniture, your whole picture might look kind of flat, so it's not going to be a very nice effect. So it's going to be a bit brighter. So just do this here, for example. But I do want the sun to dominate, so I'll just put crop over here. And the rest should be secondary light. But it seems like peculiarity, but it does tend to influence the mood of the viewer. So now the geometry is correctly highlighted and the natural sunlight is the dominating. We still have a bit of shadow left from the ES, but it's not that strong, not that defined. So this is how you can put light your scene, and then work with. And after you lighted your scene with the sun, you can add some additional work. So let's get some work over here, some outline stuff, and some extrude to 10. I will get out. Okay, put the S's out just to move them a bit. So just as we've done our lights, we've done it in the V-Ray light in mesh. We've just enable it here. Just get a bit of volume this way. Convert here. Take the V-Ray light. Mesh. So I just turn off this here. The portal view that is. And pick mesh, turn it on. And make it a bit more yellow. So this seems to be about it. Okay, left. Just turn it off here. So it's a bit too high, but it's nice. Okay. Okay, 1. And now let's see what we've got. So we got the sun view here, and see how good our ES works. We should make it a lot stronger for it to have some influence. So I suggest making a bit more yellow. Let's put it to 100. Let's make it a physical value. Want it to be nice and physically visible. So we'll have to, as you see here, it's not very strong, but let's make it even stronger. And let's say gradient power. Okay, 1,500. Okay, now we're getting it. So the light is quite strong here, but I would like that the light would be brighter. I'd like it to be brighter on such high parameters. So the view from light, we have the window light and the general highlight from the ceiling that we've got here. And it doesn't, unlike the previous experiments, it doesn't have any conflict because the blicks do not overlap each other, so it's okay. And since their colors are different, it doesn't, and the upper light doesn't give us any huge kind of blicks that aren't defined, so it's quite nice. You can try using this too, especially to highlight shadowed places. So let's choose light here and just move it a bit. So this whole ES thing is kind of big, so you can just move it here. you can, since it's a wide ES, let's choose a slightly less wide one. Let's just move this one here, put it over. It's bad because when you choose them, it's barely visible. When you use photometrics are easily visible, but these ones aren't. So let's set these powers here, put it to 25,000. So let's just take a look over here. So we want to highlight the non-lighted area of the interior, and we're getting the slightly cold feel. So we have three light generators: the upper lighters, the backlight, and the light. So we have the window light. So I meant not cold it is. So we have bright spots that allow us to see just how big our interior is. So it gives a kind of deep feel. It allows us to understand the deepness of the area. And none of these three lights actually conflict. So this should be your priority when you make an interior lighting on your own. So they kind of they work out together as a kind of a play, and this is a kind of, so it's you have this light to shadow transition that's very nice. So because it's you have everything outlined by different lights, and as a result of this play, you get this very nice effect of play from different transitions from different lights. Like here, you got you have a darker area here. So besides its own light, this is the darkest area. It's outlined in two places, but it's a bit darker towards the center of the pillow. So nothing is conflicting shadow-wise, but it's all it looks very in harmony. So we get this kind of so our upper part is lighted with this, and it's very nice. It's absolutely harmonic. So, but we could make them white. So if we had several shadows, could make kind of a conflict salad. Some more aspects of using light. So thank you for watching, and this is about it for this lesson. Best.